Hello and welcome to the best English story. Are you learning English? That's fantastic. Let's improve your English skills with an engaging and meaningful story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Now, let's begin. Important leaders meet. The world is watching. Two influential leaders, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, and Volodymyr Zelensky, the President of Ukraine, are about to meet. Their meeting is a major event. It's about ending conflict, stopping violence, and finding ways to cooperate. This story takes you through their meeting in February 2025, a crucial time for both of them and for many other nations. Trump and Zelensky are different individuals, but they have significant responsibilities. Ukraine is experiencing a war, and the situation is extremely challenging. Many soldiers are losing their lives, cities are being destroyed, and people are living in fear. Trump wants to bring the war to an end. He believes he can negotiate a deal. Zelensky, on the other hand, needs assistance to defend his country. He hopes the United States will provide strong support. This makes their conversation very serious. Why is this meeting important? The war in Ukraine affects not only Ukraine but the entire world. Many nations are closely watching to see if Trump and Zelensky can find solutions. Will there be peace? Will the United States and Ukraine strengthen their relationship? These are critical questions, and this story examines them carefully. Trump frequently talks about peace and claims to be skilled at making agreements. He believes he can resolve the war quickly. Zelensky, however, is fighting for his homeland daily. He understands the devastating consequences of war and desires peace, but he also wants Ukraine to remain secure. Both leaders have their own visions for the future, but reaching an agreement is not simple. The first meeting in February 2025, the White House prepared for an important visitor. President Zelensky of Ukraine arrived in Washington, D.C., for his initial meeting with President Trump. The world's attention was fixed on them, as they had major challenges to discuss, primarily the ongoing war in Ukraine. President Trump welcomed President Zelensky at the entrance of the White House. They shook hands in front of the cameras, both appearing serious yet diplomatic. Inside, they moved to the Oval Office, a formal room filled with symbols of American power. Trump sat behind his grand desk, while Zelensky sat across from him, with their respective teams by their sides. The atmosphere was both professional and hopeful. Trump opened the discussion by greeting Zelensky and acknowledging the difficulties in Ukraine. He expressed his willingness to help find a resolution. Zelensky thanked Trump for the invitation and spoke about the challenges his country faced daily. He emphasized the need for peace but insisted that any agreement must be fair and respect Ukraine's interests. The first part of their discussion focused on the war. They talked about the suffering of soldiers and civilians. Trump listened carefully as Zelensky described the situation in Ukraine. Both leaders agreed that stopping the war was a top priority. Trump emphasized negotiation and finding common ground, while Zelensky insisted that any peace deal must be just and reasonable. After the meeting, the two leaders briefly addressed the media. Trump stated, "We had a very productive first discussion. We are beginning to understand each other. Both of us want to end the war. It won't be easy, but we will try." Zelensky echoed similar sentiments. This first meeting was crucial. "I believe President Trump is serious about peace. We have a long road ahead, but this is a promising start. Ukraine wants a just peace, and we hope to collaborate with the United States to achieve it." Although this was just the beginning of a long and complex process, their willingness to engage in discussions provided a small glimmer of hope. Negotiating an agreement following the initial meeting, Trump and Zelensky began discussions on a potential agreement. These negotiations were vital for both countries. The talks took place in various meeting rooms in Washington, D.C., with officials from both nations participating. They spent hours each day debating key issues. Ukraine sought a strong alliance. Zelensky emphasized that Ukraine needed more military support from the United States to defend itself against Russia. Security was his top priority. Additionally, they discussed economic matters. Ukraine possesses valuable natural resources, including rare earth minerals, which are essential for producing modern technology like smartphones and electric cars. Ukraine was open to working with the US on these resources. From America's perspective, Trump wanted to bring peace to Ukraine while ensuring that any deal also benefited the United States. Security was a major concern, not just for Europe but for America as well. The US wanted to strike a balance between helping Ukraine and maintaining its own interests. One of the most complex issues was rare earth minerals. The US wanted access to these minerals, while Ukraine sought greater security assistance in return. Negotiations revolved around how much support Ukraine would receive in exchange for these resources. Another major challenge was Russia. Ukraine wanted the US to take a strong stance against Russia, whereas Trump preferred diplomacy and dialogue with Russian President Vladimir Putin. These differing views made reaching an agreement difficult. The discussions continued for several days. Both sides worked hard to find mutually acceptable terms. Some points were agreed upon, but many disagreements remained. Tensions and breaking point. As talks progressed, tensions between Trump and Zelensky began to surface. During a joint press conference, Trump remarked, "We have done a lot for Ukraine, more than anyone else." He paused and then added, "But I'm not sure if we're getting enough appreciation for it." Reporters quickly noted the shift in tone. Zelensky, surprised by the statement, responded calmly, "Ukraine is grateful for American support. We understand its importance." However, his tone became firmer as he continued, "But this isn't about gratitude. This is about our country and our people. We are fighting for our freedom every single day." Vice President Vance whispered something to Trump, but he ignored it. Trump reiterated, "Appreciation is important, President Zelensky. We are talking about substantial assistance here." Zelensky replied firmly, "Respect is also important, Mr. President. We respect the help, but we also ask for respect in return. Ukraine is not just a transaction, it is a nation fighting for survival." The atmosphere in the room became tense. Sensing the unease, Vice President Vance intervened, "Perhaps it's best if we conclude here for today." Trump nodded slowly. Zelensky looked disappointed but did not argue. The press conference was abruptly ended. Reporters immediately began speculating, had negotiations broken down? What did this moment mean for peace and the future of US-Ukraine relations? The atmosphere of cooperation had clearly changed, and uncertainty loomed over the discussions. What comes next? With the talks about resources and safety paused, the future remains uncertain. Will the US and Ukraine find common ground again, or will their paths diverge? Many nations are watching closely, hoping for peace but fearing further conflict. If negotiations resume, a peaceful resolution could benefit Ukraine, Russia, and the world. However, if an agreement is not reached, the war in Ukraine may continue, bringing more instability. The decisions made by Trump and Zelensky will shape not only their own futures but also global relations. The next few months will be critical in determining what happens next. The world waits to see if peace is possible or if conflict will persist. Everyone hopes for a positive outcome, but the situation remains delicate and unpredictable. Tensions between Trump and Zelensky. The diplomatic relationship between Presidents Trump and Zelensky has been strained. In a recent meeting at the White House, President Trump expressed frustration over what he perceived as Ukraine's reluctance to engage in peace talks, accusing President Zelensky of prolonging the conflict. Trump's comments included labeling Zelensky a dictator without elections, and suggesting that Ukraine seeks to maintain the flow of U.S. military support. These remarks have drawn criticism from European allies, who emphasize the importance of unity in supporting Ukraine. Efforts to mend ties and resume negotiations. Despite these tensions, President Zelensky has expressed a willingness to re-engage in negotiations. He proposed signing a mineral rights agreement with the United States, aiming to strengthen economic ties and secure support for Ukraine's reconstruction efforts. Zelensky also emphasized the need for genuine security assurances to ensure a lasting peace, reflecting Ukraine's desire for robust commitments from international partners. European allies' involvement. European leaders have been actively involved in mediating the situation. French President Emmanuel Macron proposed extending France's nuclear umbrella to European allies, signaling a commitment to collective security. Additionally, Macron suggested that European military forces could play a role in enforcing any future peace agreements in Ukraine. These proposals underscore Europe's vested interest in the stability of the region and the importance of a coordinated response to the crisis. TheGuardian.com. Outlook and implications. The suspension of U.S. military aid and intelligence sharing presents challenges for Ukraine's defense capabilities amid ongoing Russian aggression. However, it also serves as a catalyst for renewed diplomatic efforts. The international community closely monitors these developments, recognizing that the outcomes will significantly impact regional stability and the global geopolitical balance. The recent interactions between the United States and Ukraine highlight the complexities of international diplomacy and the pursuit of peace. While challenges persist, the expressed willingness of both nations to engage in dialogue offers a pathway toward resolving the conflict and establishing a stable and secure future for Ukraine and its people. A turning point in peace negotiations between Ukraine and USA. March 6, 2025. The world watches as US and Ukraine face a critical juncture. The diplomatic relationship between the United States and Ukraine has taken a dramatic turn in recent weeks. With the war in Ukraine still raging, tensions between President Donald Trump and President Volodymyr Zelensky have intensified, raising serious questions about the future of US support for Ukraine and the possibility of a negotiated peace with Russia. Trump suspends military aid, a tactical move or a strategic shift. On March 5, 2025, President Trump made a controversial decision to pause military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine, citing concerns over Ukraine's commitment to peace talks with Russia. The announcement, made by CIA Director John Ratcliffe, shocked both Ukrainian officials and U.S. allies in Europe. Trump's administration insists that the move is meant to encourage Zelensky to negotiate an end to the war, but critics argue that it weakens Ukraine's defensive position. "We've given Ukraine more aid than any other country," Trump stated at a press conference. At some point, you have to ask, are they serious about peace, or do they just want more weapons? The American people want results. The decision has sparked major debate in Washington, with some members of Congress arguing that cutting support will embolden Russian President Vladimir Putin, while others back Trump's approach, claiming Ukraine must engage in meaningful peace efforts. Zelensky responds, Ukraine will not be pressured. President Zelensky reacted swiftly, delivering a strongly worded speech in Kiev in which he reaffirmed Ukraine's commitment to defending its sovereignty. "Ukraine is grateful for the support we have received," Zelensky said, "but let me be clear, we will not accept a peace dictated by outside forces. Ukraine is fighting for its survival, and we will decide our own future." Sources close to Zelensky's administration say that he views Trump's move as an attempt to pressure Ukraine into making territorial concessions to Russia, a proposal that Kiev firmly rejects. Behind closed doors, a heated meeting in Washington. Tensions between Trump and Zelensky reportedly reached a breaking point during a private meeting at the White House last week. According to leaked reports, Trump accused Zelensky of failing to show appreciation for U.S. support and suggested that continued aid should come with conditions. Zelensky, in turn, firmly stated that Ukraine is not a bargaining chip in a political deal. Eyewitnesses described the meeting as tense and confrontational, with Trump at one point allegedly suggesting that Ukraine should explore a direct agreement with Putin, an idea that infuriated Zelensky. A defining moment for global stability. With negotiations at a crossroads, the next few weeks will be crucial in determining Ukraine's fate. Will Trump and Zelensky find common ground and resume military cooperation? Or will Ukraine be forced to seek alternative sources of support?